Up and nowhere. That demon took me a walk to you with it all.
Movies and film. This medium basically impacts our daily lives. It pretty much just holds the reins of popular culture and it provides us with new ideals and outlooks on how we view our daily lives. This can potentially have very positive impacts or it can pretty much have very negative impacts depending on such film. Many films are based on the medium which preceded them, which is, of course, literature. Through literature, many authors sought to have the same impacts that film has. This can definitely be said about African American writers. Writers such as W.E.B. Du Bois and Harriet Jacobs sought to paint a picture of the African American experience of Black pain and Black struggle. And a key element of these works was that they weren't set pieces for a narrative, for an established narrative. They actually experienced this Black pain and they wanted to describe the experience or simply how they examined the Black pain and Black struggle. Of course, like many other works of literature, as time went on, these works of literature began to be translated into film. Translation of Black literature into Black film especially became evident during the peak of the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s. These films sought to confront the ideas of Black identity and Black struggle. And one of these notable films is In the Heat of the Night, which released in 1967. Not only did this film feature one of the first African American actors as a lead character, but it also is one of the first films to actually prioritize the view of racial prejudice from an African American perspective. Like these utilized violence and Black pain and Black struggle as a way of storytelling. They would constantly feature this graphic violence in order to effectively tell a story, and this would definitely resonate well with African American audiences as they usually have experienced that. And we can even see this today as many films that release today often feature graphic violence when talking about the African American experience. However, when do we ask ourselves, has this constant imagery of Black struggle and Black violence, has it become incessant? Has using violence as a way of storytelling simply become a way of adding spectacle to a story of Black experience? As these questions go unanswered, it seems like the release of these movies has become incessant and non-stop. I don't think I can find a way to make it on this earth. In 2016, of the films that were made by Black people, the ones that were nominated for the Academy Awards involved slavery and or slavery adjacent violence. It seems like these sort of films, which have Blacks as the main characters, it seems like they're more of a set piece for romanticized violence. Understandably, a school of thought has come out of this where a lot of people are starting to oppose these movies coming out, and they're tired of, they've grown fatigue of the constant release of these movies. Publication done by Clara Brown the Jezebel. She states that she is tired of being told that she has to watch African American actors in physical pain and endure mental abuse for 2 hours straight in order to be worthy for distinction. She also claims that when these films are prioritized, it begs a question: do white audiences only laud a story where black actors and African Americans are subservient? This opinion has pretty much been echoed throughout black entertainment through figures such as Tyrese Gibson and Charlemagne the God.
Tyrese is tired of Hollywood making slavery films. He said as much in a recent post on social media.
Is that the sum of what you know of black people?
Black experience in America, we bigger and broader than just slavery. I don't give a fuck about slave movies. I don't care. You seen one slave movie, you seen them all.
In a review done by Britta Stevenson of 12 Years a Slave, which is a movie that released in 2013, she states that this movie stamps on the institution of slavery by using a violent and savage brutality, including psychological violence, physical violence, and sexual violence. While this movie didn't have anything necessarily negative to say about this movie's constant depraved imagery and its graphic violence that it includes throughout several scenes of the movie, it raises a key question. How does this violent imagery and this constant depraved imagery have an effect on our African American psyche? Well, simply, it can definitely have an effect by just hindering our views of self-worth, as we as African Americans are constant victims of dehumanization. This dehumanization is reinforced by media every day of our lives. So when we constantly have this imagery of violence towards us in subservient roles, we don't really have that view of self-worth which comes out of positive depictions of African Americans. We as black people are more than just constant subservience. We as black people are more than just brutality or victims of police brutality. We as black people are more than the characterization that media constantly gives us. So, looking to the future, how can we combat this? How can we fix these depictions? How can we as African Americans create our own depictions of ourselves to reinforce positive imagery of African Americans? So as I said before, that we as black people are more than struggle and pain. While it is okay to actually explore these experiences, it's also essential that we characterize black joy and black excellence. Why is that we are constantly repeated these scenes of violence when we can be shown appearances or clips or characterizations of us living our lives? Our lives are more than struggle. We are just like everyone else. We love like everyone else. We cry like everyone else. We have fun like everyone else. We experience joy. We experience pain. We experience sadness. And I think it is important to explore these characterizations and emotions because it humanizes us. It is a direct combat to the dehumanization that we go through every day. So I feel like even with all the people that we have lost this year, this large piece of our struggle with police brutality and Black Lives Matter, it is still important that we have these positive characterizations out.